The Clippers had taken control of this game midway through the third quarter. As is often the case in a closeout game, the home team gets a lead, the visiting team starts taking panic shots, and the lead grows into a blowout. With the Rockets starters in there, their net rating was an abysmal negative 39.1 in 13 minutes, and James Harden was the chief culprit, shooting 5 for 20 in 30 minutes, and his 11 for 11 free throw shooting was his only saving grace. Chris Paul went to work, scoring 3 straight buckets for the Clippers with his usual assortment of change of pace, clever tricks, and reliable mid-range jumper. And when Blake Griffin came down with his rebound and attacked in the full court, making this shot, it was time for the Rockets to abort. I can't even begin to figure out what he had in mind with this shot, as it could not have been worse fundamentally if he tried. And it's quite possible the basketball gods were angered by this blatant display of bumbled footwork and body positioning, since this is the moment the game slowly, very slowly, turned. It started innocently enough with a wild Corey Brewer drive. Watch Terrence Jones just rip the ball away from Blake Griffin and put it back in. Prigioni made a foolish mistake to reach in on Chris Paul. He'll never get this steal, and Dwight Howard has no idea where the ball is. But look at this beautiful finish. James Harden was getting hounded into misses, but there was a subtle hint of bad body language by Blake with this foul on Dwight after his offensive rebound. Doc even tried hack a Dwight here, but he must have known something was up when Dwight actually hit both free throws. In transition, Blake Griffin seems to be lost out there without any recognition of who he's guarding, and Terrence Jones steps up big again with this wide open 3 with almost no time coming off the clock. While these signs were ominous, there was no indication an iceberg loomed in the distance. Up by 12 a minute into the fourth, the Clippers were moving it nicely until CP3 tried to step back on a three-pointer. Incredible play by Jason Terry, and it's DeAndre Jordan's turn to hurt the team, taking an incredible 10 seconds to even reappear on the screen while the Rockets are getting a second chance. This led to a foul, and on the inbounds play, Brewer gets away with terrible footwork and a travel. The basketball gods must have been turned away while preparing for EuroLeague, and he gets a layup, cutting it to 10. Still up by 12, I can understand why Crawford would go underneath the screen on Ariza, who is shooting 33% from behind the arc in the playoffs. But if the Clippers didn't think something was going on until now, they had better think twice. Los Angeles turned to their old reliable, high horns, and look how hard Terry is busting his butt to shoot the gap while Jones is containing perfectly until Terry can switch back. The Clippers get what they want, the Blake mid-range, but perhaps he was still cold from just checking in. He looks like a catapult flinging a burning cow at the rim. Brewer wasn't doing the Rockets any favors with his defense here. I get that he wants to shadow Blake and help Dwight out, but he never uses his vision to see where Barnes is, blindly stunting back to thin air, which forced Ariza to cover for him. This leaves Redick wide open for a good look at the 3. And if the basketball gods weren't angered at Blake Griffin for that crazy shot he made, they surely wanted to punish DeAndre for not getting back quickly and then saving the ball under your own basket like this. He never should have tried to do it, and it goes right to Corey Brewer for the open 3, and cue the dramatic comeback music. It still didn't feel like an avalanche because the Clippers were making plays. While this wasn't their offense, Rivers gets the and one to match Brewer's 3. But Brewer comes right back on the curl, and I'd say this easily could have been a charge on him. He's out of control flying down the lane, but not only does he get the block call, the shot goes in. And Brewer did it again. A subtle denial of the ball to Chris Paul blows up their out-of-bounds play, and Barnes throws a terrible pass towards Blake. Smith knocks it away, and watch Blake never get into position correctly. Even if he did want to give Smith the shot, he shouldn't get stuck on this screen as easily as he did. And by the way, Smith is shooting a respectable 36% from 3 in the playoffs. Again, no reason to panic. CP3 attacks out of high horns. Dwight comes up way too high and gets too far outside. No one is back to protect, and they get another layup. At this point, the Clippers need to be saying to themselves, don't give them anything. Kind of like in pickup when the other team has game point, you know? Well, Blake doesn't close out particularly hard, even though Smith had just hit a 3, and he does it again. Remember, this is with the guy who had the second most MVP votes on the sideline stretching. Clippers run horns, Blake gets the short roll, and see how Brewer sits down on DeAndre Jordan, preventing the lob to him, but then Brewer closes out furiously to pressure this air ball too. Blake Griffin again plays terrible defense, looking like he wants to give Dwight a hug instead of stopping Josh Smith from getting this layup. And perhaps it was because Blake was exhausted at this point, but just watch him on this play. To me, his body language again is down, low energy, and the refs allow verticality to Dwight on this challenge. Now, while this is incredible effort by Ariza to save this, it's also an issue since it's under their own basket. This is nothing but lucky that he's able to pass it through his legs right to Dwight. As this sequence unfolds, my eyes kept getting drawn to Blake, and maybe I'm just crazy, but it looks to me like he's a bit disengaged from the action, not trying to make a play, just sort of existing out there on the court. This turns into 1 point from a Dwight free throw, and I'm not sure this was the best idea. The Clippers are in desperate need of points, so they isolate Blake on Dwight in the post. If there's one thing Dwight can do, it's defend the post. The footwork isn't bad, but it brings him clear across the lane into a forest of defenders, and his left hand can't finish. Chris Paul gets into trouble getting back. He has to see that Crawford is in position to stop the ball and that Brewer has streaked behind the defense. Instead, two Clippers are stuck on the ball and Brewer gets the game-tying dunk. Without any movement in the offense, the Clippers are allowing the Rockets to be in perfect defending and help position. Even though Blake gets right through the lane, Smith is right there waiting for him. It was like the Clippers' spirits were broken, and watch this impressive Terry skip pass 50 feet on the money to Brewer. I can't argue with the contest by Redick, but the Rockets have all systems go. Here's something I noticed. The Clippers run horns, and normally CP3 would screen for Redick in the corner. Instead, he curls back around, and Terry can now defend two players at once, getting a nice deflection. Check out how Redick seems upset that they didn't run their normal set. And I guess I can't blame him, since this action stagnated the set that normally has pretty good movement and allowed the Rockets to defend it pretty easily. Blake Griffin again struggles defensively, switching off Josh Smith way too easily, enabling him to blow by DeAndre for the free throws. And now it looks like the Clippers are freelancing. Redick is running around trying to screen anybody. Blake looks very unsure of what he wants to do with the ball, and while this isn't a bad shot by CP3, it's just not what they needed at this point of the game. Even here, the Clippers were in great position having deflected the ball and the shot clock working against the Rockets now. CP3 gets rubbed off Terry, but Jordan takes a weird path to contain, allowing an easy step back from 17 feet. And I like the urgency the Clippers have now. They break into a clear set for a Redick 3. When it's not there, the ball moves quick, but for some reason Blake was not getting foul calls while going to the basket, as this was some serious contact. With little time on the clock, CP3 didn't have much choice, although they could have run something for Redick with a screen, and this leads directly to the backbreaker, when again, Blake switches off Josh way too easily, and it leaves DeAndre Jordan in a nightmare scenario on the perimeter. Even still, this is perfect defense and a tough step back, but the Camel's back was broken.